What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and I am live one-on-one with James Hollingshead Vished. My man, how you doing? Coming off third place finish at that 2022 UK Arnold Classic. How does that feel?
Xavier,
And,
man.
how's it all been going?
How you doing, brother? Good, man. Good. Thank you for this opportunity to have a catch-up, man. It's been overdue.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I've been wanting to talk to you because you've been putting content out there, and you've been, I suppose, more open and upfront when you have talked about things closer to a contest. And as we know, as you go into a contest, you sort of get a little bit deeper and stuff like that as you get into that deep prep, and you sort of think about things sometimes a little bit more deeply. And I could almost see that coming through in either the content you put out on YouTube or through your Instagram and stuff like that. So we'll touch a little bit more on, I suppose, your thoughts, your feelings, what you've been going through emotionally and all that sort of stuff, because I think it's important. And we even just chatted right before we went live, and you said I think it's a good opportunity to have a conversation because of the way we both are, and also I think the stage we're at life and age and all that sort of stuff. So firstly, we'll touch on the competition side of things, what went down, all that sort of stuff. So Patrick Tour was your coach. We'll touch on all that sort of stuff straight off the bat first. He was your coach. He brought you into the British Grand Prix, not last year, the year prior. You looked absolutely fantastic there. You also did the Europa that year and won that show as well. The following year, did the Olympia, and didn't come in at your very best under Patrick Tour as well. So I suppose he brought you in at your best, and he brought you in at the Olympia where you weren't your best. So I suppose why the decision to move on from Patrick Tour?
To really simplify, like if I was just to shave it right down, is I feel the requirement to have someone there in the flesh in front of you to be able to like literally pinch your skin and tell you you're still fat or not, and give you insight on how you look there in the flesh moving, is something I could not go without this year. Besides what everybody speculates, what everyone says, everyone thinks it's personal. It's not personal. It's business. It's the bottom line is I had a massive, I had a very deep feeling after the Olympia that I could no longer be coached from afar. And that is literally as simple as it was. Everything else stems off of that feeling. So the root feeling of why changes occurred is because I had a very bellowing feeling that I can no longer rely on sending WhatsApp pictures or videos to someone to coach me. And that's no dig at anybody, because I think it's an impossible task for anybody to bring someone in at their best by looking at a 2D image over and over again and telling them they're in shape or not. So the first thing I want to say is this is not me saying someone's not a good coach, because that's something that you'll see on the internet. You'll see the first thing you'll say, oh, well, James must think so-and-so is not very good, or doubt them and that. I have no doubt in Patrick's ability at all. If anything, I have the opposite, because he brought me in for 2 shows with just pictures and I won 2 shows.
Yeah.
But just when it gets to the final, when it comes to crunch time, the Olympia, a big show like that, I know that it's very important to have people there in the flesh who can see how did you get to that point and how do you land the plane at that point. And that's kind of why I got to this position I'm in this year.
And it seems like with bigger guys like yourself, and especially with you in particular, and a few guys that seems more, I suppose, like right on the edge of like, okay, pushing conditioning and also being too flat and being full enough and being too full. So it seems like you're sort of one of those guys that has to really balance that when you carb up as well. So is that part of it, that you need someone to be able to actually see you in person? Because otherwise you're like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to be full enough to, or what, is that part of it?
Huge part of it. Massive part of it, because the margin for error in like a heavier bodybuilder is so dramatic. Especially one that's a taller guy. Like I'm 5'11". But like, believe it or not, like me at 275 versus 270 is a very different look. And it's enough to be going from a placing like the weekend, which is a very good placing, or not placing at all. So it's very, very difficult. I've coached, I've helped people in the past. And one thing I'll tell you is when I worked with people who were less muscled and generally smaller, the margin error was so much easier to not mess up that I could throw 5 different peaks or 5 different plans at them and almost get it right every time. But when you take a larger body with, the amount of muscle that when flat looks terrible, or when full looks great, but then you can be over full and look soft. There's just so many variables, and it's really difficult to understand how to like balance that out if you're not there seeing and witnessing it change under your kind of plan. You know, you give someone a meal, you have a look at them 2 hours later, what's happening? If you're not there to see that, it's really difficult to know what to do.
And I've also thought to myself as well, I'll just share the screen so we can show what you look like at the UK Arnold Classic. But yeah, it's with a bigger guy, like you said, it's just there's so much more variability in terms of like I've prepped people that are obviously on a smaller scale before, like natural competitors, and you feel like you can actually send a plan through and you're pretty positive it's going to go to plan and then just get a couple of updates and you sort of sweet, you know. But with obviously you guys, it's you've got to really balance that line of being too full and you know, full enough. So I think you've done a really good job of that, man. With this last show, and the technique you did obviously worked really, really well, because I thought you brought a much improved physique from that Mr. Olympia. Like, what was the weight difference?
I'm about 275 on stage there, which I could be probably 2 pounds tighter, I reckon. But this is something that, a word that me and Jordan threw around a lot in this last few weeks was ratios. We were very aware. We're like, James, we can either bring you in, you know, in the condition we know we can, but it will cost you pop, or we give you a bit more pop and it will cost you a little bit of condition. And we had to make a decision, and the decision was definitely to push some of the percentage towards trying to be bigger and take up more space on stage, because on my body that looks better, because the areas of my body that disappear first when I come in flat really do change my overall package. So we lent in favor of being you know, slightly larger physique with maybe a touch less detail than I know I can bring. But even saying that, like, you can even see in some of the pictures, I'm still not super full. We didn't really take the mick. Like, I could be fuller through the pecs, I could be fuller through you know, like the shoulders and stuff. I wasn't super responsive to a pump up backstage, but again, like, you can only push ratios. If you try to push 100% fullness, even that's going to cost me, you know, the small amount of details I have, because I don't have genetically a body that has as many fibrous details as some of the other chaps, especially from the front. So trying to show the most detail you possibly can, but also be large enough and in condition. You know, you're trying to juggle these three things. It's a very particular and a very kind of hard to juggle end process to getting ready for a show.
Of course, and it sounds a lot like that, like the sort of Dennis Wolf sort of issue he had. It was sort of a thing with Cedric McMillan a little bit, where, you know, Chris Aceto said, you know, sort of if you brought him in too hard, then he'd be called stringy, and then he needs to, you know, be fuller and all that sort of stuff. So it is a fine line, but you're right. It's cool to see you right around that line. You know what I mean? Like, you really pushed the fullness, and you said you didn't even feel that 100% here, but your legs and everything looks so much dramatically bigger than the Olympia. Like,
my legs
I know
are
you
a bugger
squatted
because
huge
they
weights
fill
in
up
the
very
past.
quick. I'll tell you that, Xavier. Like, I could be low carb for days, and my legs will never go flat, really. So it's a bit of a pain, because my upper body's the part that, if through a carb up process, you'll notice that my calves and legs start to fill. It's almost like I actually feel in that order. Like, the more you pour in, the more I start to fill up all the way to the top. So it's just a genetic disposition, is that my legs are obviously genetically very greedy, and it's something I have to consider, especially when getting ready for a show and trying to keep some of the upper body mass, because I'm not. My upper body is as big as my legs when it's as fresh and full as it can be, but it's the first to flatten off in comparison.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this look is awesome, man. And what I said in my sort of analysis of it, without being there and actually seeing it in person, and the people that there in person were very, very impressed with you. I know Nathan Diasha said, you know, holy shit, like, he was complimentary with you guys, but he was especially complimentary of you. Yeah, you mostly, man. To be honest, I think he said that, you know, this is James's best, or one of his best, or something like that. He said in a private message to us. So he was
I spoke
definitely
to Nathan
impressed.
today briefly, like, just had a quick catch up on WhatsApp, and you know, he's like that. He's like, bro, you were tight. Don't be mistaken. Like, you were tight. And I think he must have been impressed by Patrick, because I was impressed by Patrick.
Yeah, you talk about Patrick Johnson.
Was like, I kid you not, like, the dryness of Patrick was ridiculous. It looked like whatever you pour on his body will literally just disappear into the skin because he was that dry.
So that really did that just show up more in person? Because I got to see some of the dryness in some photos, but at the same time, like Guy Cicinino, I saw him on last episode of, was it Bodybuilding Bollocks or Bro Chat or whatever it was, and he was saying, like, he's like, I'm looking at the photos, he's like, I just can't see how he beat James and Martin. Like, he was just sort of like, I don't get it. And I got the same impression from looking at the photos and some of the video, but I can see that sort of dryness, but I don't think it shows through properly unless you're there probably in person.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think me and Patrick are very comparable because I think certain body parts of him are better than mine, and in certain shots we're pretty equal. He was slightly, I would say, he was the best conditioned man on stage, like in regards to skin being thin. I don't know if he was full enough to really reveal that because obviously it takes a certain amount of pop to show, but he was certainly what I would say the most dry physique on stage, and I think that's what really carried him. And you can especially see it in like the side leg, like those shots.
That's where I could see it.
Yeah, like it was pretty ridiculous. And I would have no problem with Patrick of winning the show. I think again it's like shot for shot in it. Like I think his back width is one of the things that lets him down a touch, but crazy arms, nice chest, good quads, good abs, a nicer midsection than me structurally. So apples and oranges.
Yeah, it is one of those things, you know, where it is apples and oranges. But I was sort of, I suppose, looking at it and going, okay, we must do pretty well from behind. And I didn't think he did as well, but he has made huge improvements when you look at the before.
Mate,
and after.
I saw an old his last contest. I think it was a picture of that.
It was last
Like,
year.
hats off to
like,
Patrick. Yeah.
I'll bring it up actually. I'll
Honestly,
share the screen.
that's some of the best changes I've seen, and I think him and Abdullah have done a fantastic job. And Abdullah is I consider Abdullah a friend of mine. He's always one of the most polite gentlemen to me. He sends me voice notes, sees how I'm doing. He's a very, very kind guy, and he's obviously knows what he's doing. Because if you look from the back at this guy, look at the changes there. Like, I know the lighting in the previous show is not great, but from a conditioning and a muscular standpoint, he's improved all over.
And I still look at this and I look at his back and I go, that doesn't look ultra conditioned in the close up, but maybe in person when it's moving, it looks a bit more granular as well. So
I think that's what it takes sometimes. It takes being there, man.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed a difference as well. One guy that I always mention that I was particularly impressed with in person was William Bonac when he was up against, it's sort of like his breakout show against Sean Roden. And because I didn't see that many pro bodybuilding contests, and I was up right up the front, and Chris Aceto was there yelling for Sean Roden, and then you had Neil Hill there yelling for William Bonac, and it was like, I was like, I think I had William Bonac almost winning this. Sean Roden won, but I was like, holy crap, I'm like, William Bonac, to see in person and just see that round muscle bellies and see the hardness to it, it's like, I'm like, okay, I understand now. So every time I see him in videos and photos, and I can see structural flaws, I'm like, being there in person is different, you know?
Yeah. No, it's so true. In certain physiques, more so than others, for sure. Some people 100%. Look good in any quality video. Like you can have 480p and someone still looks good. And then there's other guys, me especially, I know, because even if you look at Milos Sarsev's latest comments, he watched a feed of the show off someone's phone, I think Samsung or someone's, then was on the Cutler cast and watched the 4K footage and was like, Jesus Christ, I totally got it wrong. So it, sometimes it translates, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe that's a skin tone thing. I don't know. But yeah.
It's funny. Actually, Milos said the same to me. He said something along the lines of, he's like, oh, normally I agree with your opinion or something like that. So he disagreed with what I was saying or something. And then he said, oh, I just want to take his voice message. He goes, Xavier, I made a mistake. I changed my opinion.
He's a very polite man. He literally, he's messaged you directly. He's messaged me directly. He's a good guy, Milos. I must say, like, to reach out, because you don't have to. Listen, you can make a statement, and then if you don't fancy withdrawing it, you don't have to. But he obviously went out of his way to say, no, this is what I saw. So thank you to Milos, really.
Well, I did a little video with Jamie Christian versus Mark Hector, because I thought that was like a close battle, and then Jamie said, oh,
I like that battle. I like that. I like that Jamie said, I think I beat Mark.
It makes it interesting. And I went pose by pose, and that doesn't always tell the full story, but I had 6-2 to Jamie. I was like, oh. And in a way, I was like, if I was Mark Hector, I'd be like, that sucks. You know what I mean? And I totally understand it from the athlete side of thing. But I think because when you cop a bit of blowback yourself, sometimes you're like, yeah, okay, I wouldn't necessarily want that to be me to be in that situation. How much do you
Yeah.
feel like that in terms of like if YouTube videos are made about you, or if it's an article made about you, or if someone says something about you online? How do you deal with that now, maybe compared to how you used to, and how do you think you should deal with it?
Mate, like, I won't lie. Like, sometimes it doesn't bother me in the slightest, and then other times it really does, and it can almost lead to a level of depression. Like sometimes I
Mm,
do suffer terribly for it. That's why I've had. I think social media for me, depending when it catches me, it's like anybody. If your defenses are down and something catches you when you're off guard, it can really it can paralyze you. And I've sometimes been on the internet at the wrong time when I'm feeling the wrong emotions and been very, very hurt by what I've seen. Um, so I can come from the position that I almost look at. I don't look at videos like that as anything wrong. I think they're fair because I think they're cool and I think it's good to do that. It's more like some of the disrespectful comments and stuff for me. I almost feel at the level of bullying. And I watched a film the other day called Joe Bell, which was a really good film. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
no, I haven't.
It's a film with Mark Wahlberg, and it's worth a watch. But it's basically about his son, who was a homosexual kid who got bullied for being homosexual. And although like the story is a different story, I just it made me really realize like the extent of what bullying is.
Mm,
And I feel like we just live in a time, and I hate to be the moany person, but I do feel like we live in a time where bullies are given opportunity to really actually bully and be like almost they can be fatal to some people if you catch them at the wrong time. Like, what if someone's had a day where they've lost a family member to something like an illness, and then they're online because they want to chill out and try and break away from reality, and they see something about them, that's just totally derogatory and just like hurtful. I don't know. Again, like you can argue. I'm not trying. Listen, this is me. I'm on here actually to ask just as much questions as I'm to answer because I don't have the answers, and I'm not. I'm not trying to say I know anything or everything at all. Um, I do wish people just took into consideration more though how effective words can be, especially when they're written and put out there forever. Um,
mm.
you catch someone after a show, maybe Mark's obviously very, very disappointed with that show, yeah. And he's back, he's competing this weekend. I guarantee he's going to be better because he's managed to drop 9 pounds. But I bet for a moment, if he had read some comments, it could have been, if he wasn't a thick skinned guy, it could have been quite hurtful. But again, you probably get a lot of people in the comments saying, James, you just need to be thicker skinned and don't worry about it. But I don't know. I just got morals. And, whenever I think about things like this, I always think about like, what would my mother say about how you talk about people and how you present yourself and how you wish to be received? And I just can't help but think like she'd be livid with me ever bringing someone down and not highlighting their strengths, first and foremost. Like, yeah, like we all have our weaknesses and we all have things we can improve, but it can be said and it can be done in a manner that is very productive and, concise, polite, and constructive. And I've had comments below some questions I've proposed about my physique this weekend, and I've had some fantastic answers, and the answers are very truthful and honest. The answers are like, you probably will never be able to beat someone like Andrew because of the genetic differences, which is fine because the way these guys have presented the answers is entirely respectful and takes into consideration the emotion and the feelings of the person who's laid the question out. So I suppose
Mm.
I know I'm rambling on, but the one thing I just wish is that people were a little bit more um, less quick to type and think about what they say and pull it forward in a way that benefits all of society and all of the community, because it's okay to know that we can't be the best. It's fine, but it's just how we word things, because then we can still encourage. Because I could say
Mm.
to someone, you're never going to be Rafa Nadal, you're never going to be, but you can be an incredible version of yourself and it'll be one that many people will admire. So
Mm.
it's just how you come across, and I think perspective is just something that's really not spoke about much. And I know I can't change the world, and you're never going to be able to turn off the trolls. But I will say my part, and that is my part.
I always wonder if in like 20 or 30 years, if there's some way to minimize the trolling online. Like, will it get to a point where it gets too bad and there are, like there's been literally people, taking their lives and the final straw has sort of been some sort of a social media bullying session, and then you hear of them taking their lives, and it's like, you know, they might have been on the edge already, and it might have happened regardless, but it's like that extra, you know, lack of a better term, like that extra push at the end for someone can be that final straw, you know?
Xavier, it doesn't surprise me at all. As someone that's lost friends and witnessed, I feel I've witnessed a level of depression myself. It does not surprise me at all. And I think something has to happen. There needs to be some sort of, you know, like if someone's not subscribed to you, why, like I look at it like a subscription on YouTube is a way to show your support. Yeah, you generally support. If you wish to comment on someone's video, then maybe as a procedure you should have to subscribe first in order to do so. So then, you can't just appear and lay out your bullshit, whatever you want to say. I know, just some sort of like not policing, but like there's things in play that should be put that just make it a more seamless experience for people to use social media and feel more happy and confident about putting out content without the fear of being absolutely attacked by everybody and anybody for the things they say, especially if the content they're doing is purely trying to be positive and helpful.
Yeah, especially when, you know, like, should people not have the pleasure of like anonymity, being like anonymous? I was trying to say the actual
They
word for it,
definitely shouldn't.
anonymity.
They definitely shouldn't, because they're the people that you would literally, because they're the ones that if they saw you in the flesh wouldn't say anything, and they're just and they know that, and that's why they remain anonymous. And it's just sad to see. Like, again, today's an opportunity to talk about all things. This isn't the only subject we can talk about, but I think it's definitely worth highlighting, because I know there's a lot of people that do listen to videos that probably do feel similar, and everything that I try to talk about is to try to be relatable to the people who are out there, because the majority of my bodybuilding and the career I've had has been received by people that wish to send messages to me talking about experiences they've had, normally that relate to some sort of depression or some sort of anxiety or some sort of hardship, and how they're coming out the back end of it because the positivity that comes through the content we do. So that is a bigger role than the bodybuilding itself. And that's why I always feel when I come on a platform like this, that it's important to highlight these things, because I know, and I've seen a glimpse of how many people out there need to hear stuff like this and need support.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Like there's a lot of that, and I know when I've gone through particularly hard times in my life, and it's always sort of like, even just listening to podcasts and stuff, like it's almost like, okay, cool, I feel trapped in my own little world. That's like my sense of escapism. And we even, I don't know if we sort of mentioned that maybe before the show a little bit, like how you have your gaming, you know what I mean? It's an escape from that everyday life. So if there's something going on in your everyday life, you can sort of disconnect from that and then escape into something else. So talk a little bit about that, man, because you're obviously pretty heavily into gaming. You do like, you jump on like live Twitches and stuff like that, I believe. So tell us a little bit about that. And does it like ramp up while you're prepping, or does it sort of calm down?
You know, the gaming for me is because I'm a very fantastical person, and like you can probably tell from me that I do wish for the world to be a perfect place, and that's naive of me, yes, of course. But I also believe that what you allow into your bubble and what you put within that place is your world. And I feel like sometimes the fantastical is so much better than the reality that I wish to spend more time in that. So therefore, you know, certain games I will play because they take me away from reality. And I've met some really, really good friends online who I would have never met in any other circumstance on this earth. And now I can say they're some of my best friends, because obviously we do certain things with our lives. We have certain occupations and we follow certain trends and do certain things and only go certain places. The kind of online community is unlimited. Like you can be touched and you can reach out and you can speak to people from wherever and whenever or whatever time, wherever they are on the globe, and whoever they are and whatever they're about, whatever sexuality are, or whatever the hell they are, it doesn't matter. You can still communicate. And I know, I just think that is a place that is, for me, it just seems to be a lot purer than some of the realities we're in at times. And you have this common ground where you're obviously all interested in playing games and having fun. And you're doing something fun at the same time as putting your headset on and talking to your mates. And there's nothing more satisfying than, you know, putting a couple of bullets in a game in the back end of your mate and saying, oi, oi. I know it's just an experience. It's just something fun to do, and it's a breakaway. And even from playing a storyline game that's a single player, you can sometimes just really immerse. You know, I've never been someone that reads books because I just can't find myself able to. I'm probably not intelligent enough to be able to really visualize and articulate the words and make them into an actual scene. But I can play something and get lost. So I choose that medium instead because I find it very easy to slip in and out of this reality and have fun. And then the reason I did the Twitch as well was, again, all about just building a community where we talk about things that are whatever. All of the social outlets that I've ever been involved in, I don't limit them to like talking about bodybuilding. It's not like, oh, you come here and we talk about bodybuilding. I have a Discord. I have obviously Twitch and YouTube, and I just want it to be a place where it just draws positivity, and that's it, you know. And that's it. It's creating a little bubble, the bubble I was talking about to you, and hopefully it's a place for other people that don't know how to create their own bubble to come into and be part of. And the gaming's an excellent way to do that for sure.
No, it's very cool. It's funny. I've actually been involved, I suppose, and seen different things that people, I suppose, are drawn to. Like I actually, people won't know this because I don't think I mentioned it at all in any of the Bodybuilding University podcasts, but there was like a celebrity fight happening in Australia, and then someone got injured, and it was like a bodybuilder versus a big gym owner here, and then they got injured, and they said, "Do you want to do it?" And it's going to be on Fox Sports here, like legitimately. And I was like, "Okay." Like, and I started training, and part of like sort of like one of my initiations was basically taking gut punches, and I got messed up, and something happened. And so I basically got a bit still a lump on the top of my rib from it, which was like 3-4 weeks ago. So that never eventuated. But yeah, I get to see that community, the boxing community, the MMA community. You get to see like everyone has these sort of subgroups in society that they just are sort of drawn to, and we sort of forget that we're in the bodybuilding one because it just becomes that's our life. You know, that's a lot of our friends are bodybuilders, a lot of the people we know. We forget we're in this total subgroup that we don't even really think about a lot of the time. But you're in. I think it's cool to be in multiple. You know, you're in the gaming one, and you got the bodybuilding one.
It's be a multiple, Xavier, because I think you need to be a multiple because the one we're in is quite toxic.
Definitely can be.
And I think our one has a lot more, like I say, the bullying is very prevalent because we do something that's based purely on judgment. And when judgment's involved, obviously, you can either, again, as I said earlier, you can either be very courteous in how you say things, or you can be very strongly judgmental to the point where you say things like they're fact and you insist and insist and insist. And with that insisting, it can be almost like taking a knife to a punch bag where it's just kind of almost too much. Because obviously, we love bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is great. I love bodybuilding. And the problem is, though, is that we put ourselves in a position where we are subject to opinion, and it is down to us to be able to absorb those opinions and not let them bother us for sure. But I will say this, the higher you climb and the more you're out there and the more comments that come your way that are negative, there is only so much you can keep your defenses at their full capacity to kind of deflect some of that incoming that barrage of negativity. And that's why these other, like you say, these other kind of subgroups of cultures are important, because again, to be able to phase in and out of where you spend your time gives you some level of protection, because if your head's focused on one of them other areas more so, and you're not paying attention to the one that's at the current being very challenging, then you don't feel the burden. And that's why, like with skating as well, like I don't see anything negative in the skating community. So that's why most of the content I absorb is skating podcasts and stuff like that, because I just don't see the negativity. I see a lot of complimentary content where people are very, very respectful, and everyone who's done it is a legend, and everyone who's coming up is a potential great, so that's why I really kind of love that stuff.
Yeah, and this one's from Jamie as well. They just I don't know, it might be Jamie Christian. I don't think so though. It says much love, James, only positivity for you, my man. And
thank you, Jamie.
$2.99 donation Australian dollars.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jamie. Thanks for supporting Desktop as well, man. It's like Xavier goes out of his way to give you quality, non-biased content. So it's really cool.
Thank you, my man. I'll send you the money. I'll send you all the money later for that.
No.
But you got Roy Johnson here. You're a good man, James.
Roy, thank you, brother.
Bunch of compliments, man, and which is cool to see. And I think it speaks volumes to sort of the audience I have on here, which is I'm very fortunate to have. We've got 200.
It says a lot about you, Xavier. You attract what you are, and you've got good people who support your cause and your channel, and that's why when we spoke and like earlier, because this wasn't even planned, we were speaking because we're friends. We were speaking earlier just briefly, and I was like, and you were like, we should have a catch up, and a catch up became an interview and a chance to talk because, like we said, your community is a good community, and I think they are the right people to hear conversations like this.
Yeah, and at first I didn't even know, I didn't even know you meant an interview at first. So because I said, oh, if you want to catch up, if you want to talk, whatever, you're like, yeah, let's catch up. I'm like, I think you said something along the lines of, I think people about helping people. I'm like, an interview? Yeah. I was like, cool.
Yeah, Xavier kind of like as a friend, I kind of reached out earlier, just checking how I am, and I was like, yeah, we should have a catch up, and I just thought, like. It wasn't even like I say, it wasn't planned, but I thought, yeah, let's have a catch up. But I think we should, put something out there just so that people can come chime in and hopefully take something away from it. And I think that's always the best way, man.
Yeah, and Jamie apparently is from Australia.
Good lad.
Yeah, got to support the fellow Aussies. Thank you, my man.
I'm almost Australian. British ain't too different.
yeah, exactly. Well, we're all the convicts from Britain.
Exactly.
We're just all the rejects pretty much. I always wonder if that's why Australians speak a certain way and it just sort of, I don't know. I always wonder how Australians are viewed by the rest of the world. I only see the g'day mate, like how you doing, all that sort of stuff, but it's sort of
very similar because even when I watched Inbetweeners, like there was one of the Inbetweeners movies. I don't know if you watched Inbetweeners. It's a British So I think it's the first or the second movie they go to Australia. And he's got like his uncle there who's just pure Australian, but it's just an Australian version of his already existing family. And it's so similar, but it's different, but similar. Like, I talk to Lee a lot and everything Lee says, I really get because Australians and British people have the same kind of humor, taste in food. They like using certain words when they like swear. Like there's a lot of similarities. There definitely is a lot of similarities.
Yeah, you just get the English slang and the Aussie slang basically, and the Aussie sayings and stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever saw a guy. He's called the Honey Badger. He's like an Australian rugby player, and he would basically have all these Australian slangs that he would say just constantly, like off the tip of his tongue, like post game interview. They'd always get him because he's just hilarious. They'd say like. He's like, oh, mate, I was out there. I was busier than a bricklayer in Baghdad, and I was, bloody doing this. And he's just one of these
if you just literally slightly twist the accent, you can absolutely imagine like a Londoner saying that as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same kind of like the vocabulary is the same.
And it's funny sometimes. Like I understand British people generally really easily. Like I can actually understand Nathan pretty well, and a lot of people say they struggle. And I normally like Big Ramy when he did that video where he's speaking about, like you said, oh, I tell my kids I retire. I've already said I tell my kids I retire on Thursday, and then on Saturday I want to be Mr. Olympia. So I reported it as that, and I said, I think he said that, and everyone's like, no, he said 38. I was like, oh man. So I did a whole video.
It's impossible, especially for you being like, doing some journalism work, trying to understand what people are saying.
I literally played that back so many times, man, and I was like, Thursday. Yep, got it. Nah, way off.
We got the story.
Yeah. There's people asking in the comments, James. We'll get a bit more into like the mental side of things as well, because I think people are really interested in it. But people are asking about this weekend competing in the what is it, the French Yamamoto. Is it happening or not? Tomorrow. I believe you're not.
Yeah, I'm not competing in France. I'm I've kind of like. Again, I can't speak for everybody because some people can just roll into one show straight into another and have no effect. I could probably normally do that, but I think the year that I've had and the lead up to this show and kind of the mental struggles I've had this year, when I got off that stage, having come third, I just needed a moment just to let it absorb because I actually exceeded my expectation because I was so doubtful in my own ability because of last year. That anyone that watched any of my content up to the show, I said, I don't know how it's going to go. This could be the best James ever. It could be the worst, because the approach was so different. I didn't know which way it was going to go. And I felt like it couldn't have gone any better, that I've come out of this show. And I won't lie to you, I'm kind of content for the moment. And I want to spend a moment in the contentment, because I don't want to bully myself into being, I don't want to put myself back in the position I have been before, where it's all pressure, where I'm like, go, go, go. Like, you have to do this because this is what you should do. I've told myself, like, this year, I said to myself, you know, listen to your like, cheesy as it sounds, but listen to your heart. Like, if you get a feeling to do something, you do it, and you do it in your own time. And that's why I didn't even do Italy the week before the British, because I was like, I hadn't really set my heart to it, and I did not want to rush. Could I have been ready for it? Of course. But the one thing I didn't want to do this year is rush, man. I just like, I know when you're coming out of the back end of something that was what you consider a devastation, that the last thing you should do is force anything. And that's why I was actually, number one, happy I even made it to the stage to the weekend, because I was close to not many times, I won't lie. And then on top of that, to be able to finish on the podium and arguably be the best I've ever been. And on top of that, the response I had there, like, I finished the show, I got off the stage, and I had like this audience of people wait after the show to take photos and sign belts and talk to me. And I've never experienced such like support and love in my life. Honestly, the weekend gone, I've never experienced anything like it. I did not think that I had that kind of support network. I did not think that people cared that much. And that's why I've come out the back of it, and I've given myself a moment to reflect on it and take it all in, because I think it'd be very wrong of me to just brush that result off super quick and get back straight into a show with almost no time spent on thinking about everybody that made an effort to come to that show and support me.
Yeah.
Like, I owe it to them. I owe it to them to sit and for a moment and feel good about myself, because they made me feel good, and they deserve that, and I deserve that for them. It's weird. I know, like, I'm trying to explain what I feel, but life is so fast. Life is so go, go, go. I live in London. Everything's like, you've got to do the next thing. You can't stop. You got to keep going. That is killing people. That is killing me, and that was killing me. And I've told myself that I have to spend more time in the moments and live by my own, you know, my own time. Like, I if I don't feel like doing something just because, you know, a bunch of people out there who love bodybuilding say you should because you're in shape, I can't ignore my inner feelings. If my inner feelings say, no, it's not time yet, then I'm going to listen to myself. I have to from now on. And I've said that to myself this entire year. And that's why I don't know what I'm doing yet. I don't even know what I'm doing show-wise yet, because I'm giving myself time. As a human, I just want to give myself time.
Man, it feels like, in a way, you're almost like finding. It's hard. It sounds almost ridiculous to say this to an IFBB Pro guy who's competed in the Olympia, won IFBB Pro contest, but it feels like you're almost like finding your groove in life and what makes you exactly happy, and I suppose what fulfills you. Because at the end of the day, obviously, everyone has to make a living, and obviously you make a living from being an IFBB Pro bodybuilder. But it's at the end of the day, it's like when you get to the end of your life, it's like, what do you want to have achieved? Do you want to have had a happy life, a fulfilling life, a life where you made a massive impact on other people? Like, what do you want to do? And I think it's just a combination of all those things. And I think you're finding your way through that. And I think that even though sounds like, you've gone through tough times, even just recently, and maybe even still are, it's cool that you're, I suppose, inquisitive and you want to make things better. Because some people, that go through tough times, they give up. They go the other way, and it's cool that you're not like that.
Well, and another thing, I think the reason that happens to people is because succumbing to the pressure of turning up. Like, you don't have to always turn up, man. If for your sanity's sake and for your health and for your longevity, you need to scale back and take a moment to breathe and just take it all in. That's what I think people don't do enough, because we are scared of like being considered a failure, or we're scared of what people think of us for not turning up or not showing our face when we're expected to do so. And I think, I've just switched over to comments, and I've seen like JR make a comment, and he speaks absolute sense. He's like, just do it for the love. And that's it. Like, you've got to do it for the love. And with love, as you know, even with that, it's not always present. Like there's times and gaps in between. Like we've all been in relationships, and sometimes the love is stronger than other times, and you can only really go with the flow of everything. You can only really go with the flow. And I suppose in life right now, I'm just trying to go with the flow rather than now being that guy that writes down in a book the plan and says, this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it. Because as much as I do think that works, and I do think that's a great way to be successful, I think if you do that for a long time, and I've been doing that since I was probably about 17, I think life flashes by and you miss out on memories and you miss out on experiencing it, because although you're doing it, you're not experiencing it because you're so focused on the next page of the diary or the next task, the next challenge. And I think sometimes when you accomplish a challenge, like, you do deserve a moment to sit down after it and just think about what you've just managed to achieve, take it all in, and then make a calculated decision on the back of that. I just don't want to be desperate. I don't want to have that feeling of desperation, like I'm in a deep ocean and I'm having to doggy paddle to stay afloat. I just want to be able to rest on the shore, see the sunset for a moment, and then get back in the water when I'm ready to. And that for me is what life should be. I want there to be hard times. I want there to be challenges, but I don't want there to be anything forced. I want it to all be done when, I say to myself, right, I'm getting myself ready for this now. This is time.
Yeah, for sure. How much, when you say you don't want to be forced, you want to, all that sort of stuff, like, does financial security come into that much? Like, you want to be able to have that level of security to be?
Definitely does, man. And I will never have to worry about financial security because I know that I have very good people around me I can work for. But it's still besides the point. I'm with a great company now that I love and I want to be able to do the best for. Yanmo are amazing and I want to be a great athlete for them. It's very important to me to use all of their products to really grow an understanding of the brand. But at the same time, if the way that I am, if people don't see value in that, I understand. Like, if people think James is too his own way, I would totally get that, because business is business. I'm not saying anyone feels that way. I'm just saying that if that was the case, I would always find a way to go out there and make my living. It's not a problem. The living part, making a living part for me isn't really something that really is the pressure right now. The pressure for me that I feel right now is not disappointing people who support me. The pressure I feel is knowing that a lot of people out there like what I do, what I represent, and what I bring. And I would hate for them to not be satisfied. And that's more the pressure I feel, because I don't want to let people down. And these can be people I've never met, because at the end of the day, even if I've never met them, but they throw support my way in one way or another, every single ounce of that support has become the energy that has allowed me to even get to where I've got to. So I do feel like I owe it to people to continue and to train hard and to deliver something worth supporting. Like, I want them to have a reason. I don't want to show something that they shouldn't bother supporting.
And bodybuilding is one of those ones that's a massive head game, because you could bring one package to the stage and you think that like on the weekend you weren't even sure of yourself and you came in and looked fantastic and people were debating you winning the show in a very, very tough top 4, top 5 lineup. So, you can go into a show like that and you can go to other shows thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to win this, and miss the mark. And it's so much more devastating to you.
I fear that tremendously. A lot of people assume that because you looked really good at one show, that if you just turn up at the next, it's a guaranteed win. But I think a lot, and I probably think too much. I'm very guilty of that. But I consider loss. Like, I before I go into a show, I'm like, well, if I don't spend that time that I'm talking about earlier, where I refresh a little bit, evaluate and establish a little bit of equilibrium again, I fear that by not doing that when I do go to a show, if I rush it, that I will lose. And then I would be very unhappy with myself, because I only have myself to blame for rushing.
Absolutely. And that feeling of just losing a contest as well, that perhaps you maybe should have won or whatever, it really sticks with you. That final placing from the judges really messes with you. What people say online, because it starts to form the opinion, because you don't get to see yourself. You don't get to sit in the audience, and you don't get to watch yourself versus these other guys, and you can't make a proper judgment. You're basing it off what you're seeing backstage, what you're seeing in photos, what you're seeing in videos, and you start to have differing opinions of how good am I against these guys, and just a whole lot of self-doubt creeps in. And like you said, you're an overthinker. I'm an overthinker as well, so I totally get what would have been going through your mind at certain points, I suppose, in some sorts of ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted to give a shout out. There's been a few super chats as well that were a while ago. This one, this guy actually told me, or I'm pretty sure it's a guy, told me how to pronounce his last name, and it's not Paulina. So I'll say it's not Paulina, but Casey.
How do you say it?
I can't remember. Please get him in comments, because I feel bad getting it wrong again.
It's Casey, though, isn't it?
It is Casey, yeah. So he's got to support this one. James and Xavier, thanks for bringing so much positivity into the bodybuilding scene. No worries at all. Thank you so much for the donation. Generous donation too, £17.99. So I don't know how much that is in Australian dollars, but I know it's more than 18 Australian dollars. So based off the currency conversion, all that sort of stuff. And there was another one too, which I've got to try to find now, from Kenny CFC. I've known James since the Pinks gym days. He was 16. I hope you're well, my man, and get that O qualification, mate. Do you know who that is, James?
Yeah, his name's James as well. James Kenny. Thanks, James.
Cool.
Very
awesome.
kind. Very kind.
Cool.
Pink's gym was the first proper gym I trained in. It was a legendary place, I have to say. Legendary.
Oh, that's cool, as. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to Casey. Please let me know how to pronounce your last name again. Oh, here we go. I'm a bloke. Here we go. I'm a bloke. It's Pavlina. W's and
Oh,
V's.
do you know what though? That's the thing with Yannicka in Norway. The W's and the V's are like that.
Yeah, it's confusing. That sort of stuff definitely confuses me. It's actually funny. A friend of mine, because I've recently moved down to Tasmania. For those who don't know where Tasmania is, it's basically the island off the bottom of Australia, but still part of Australia. And that's where I'm originally from. So I've got all my schoolmates and stuff like that. And one of my mates is actually a girl that was on UK Next Top Model or something, and she lives down here now. And she's from Ireland, and some of the way they spell their names, man, and how they're pronounced are just completely.
The Irish and the Welsh, like even the Welsh spell things quite funny as well.
Yeah, it was mind blowing.
Yeah, if you were to ask Flex some of the words that come out of Wales, Jesus Christ, no idea what they're saying. They've got their own language as well.
Yeah, the Irish and the Welsh and the Scottish, I do struggle with their accents a little bit, especially when they're speaking really, really fast. I'm like, I've got half of that, maybe. Like, maybe.
That's the problem with British people in general, like anyone from any of the British countries, is that our pace of talking, unless we're talking to someone who talks at a good pace, we speak very, very fast. Like, if I was speaking to someone else from here right now, it'd be double this speed.
Yeah. That is very British as well. Like, I've got some mates that sometimes will speak quickly, and I'm even one of them sometimes. Like if I'm in a social situation and I'm having a laugh or something, I'll start to speak quicker and quicker. And then I feel like people don't understand what I'm saying. So
you know what? Well, if you're an excitable person, if you get quite excited, then it can happen as well.
Do you get quite excited?
Yeah, depending, like, you know, if I'm talking about, if I'm having a good time with friends and it's something funny is being spoke about, the conversation just goes so rapid.
Yeah.
John
nice. Says Ron Weasley been hitting the sauce.
Ron Weasley's on the decker.
Man, do you know what's funny? Do you know what reminded me of you? Not exactly, obviously the Jack version. Have you seen the movie? I don't know if it was initially a movie. It's called Between Two Ferns with Jack Galifianakis.
No. Now I'm gonna have to. Now I'm gonna have to find the thumbnail for the film.
You've got that fern at the side. You need to put one on the other side, and it is hilarious. I'll pull it up while we're talking, man. I'll pull it up at some point.
I think you should.
Between Two Ferns. Yeah, we need to see it. Actually, I'll look it up while we're talking. But I just saw a preview for it the other day on Netflix, and it's just it's a movie, and I'll find it, man, because it's hilarious that you got that fern there. But is that just sort of like for your YouTube setup, basically?
Okay, guys. Honestly, so we mentioned earlier this film that I watched. Anyone that's just joined the chat, there's a film called Joe Bell. It was on Amazon Prime. It's just a film I think it's worth watching. If you're someone with quite a lot of humility and wants to like watch a film that makes you, I don't know, just think a bit and has a good moral to the story. Joe Bell, good film with Mark Wahlberg in.
Yeah, nice. I'll open up this image. Okay. Yeah, I've got it working here. Here we go. Okay. I'm still getting used to this whole StreamYard thing. I feel like I muck it up quite a little bit, but I'm getting. So I need to learn all the shortcut controls and stuff.
Man, there's so many. Honestly, there's like short keys everywhere. If you've got a Stream Deck,
I don't even know. I don't. I evidently don't because I don't know what a Stream Deck is.
Yeah, it's basically just an extension that's just got like you can get a 6-button, 32-button, and you can assign the keys to each button, and you press it, it will shortcut to whatever you've preset up. Have a look into Stream Decks.
Okay, I'll look into it for sure. Absolutely, that'll be way easier. But yeah, you give me these vibes with your fern at the side as well. Can you see it?
So the geezer on the right, yeah, the beard.
Huh?
That's me.
Can you see that?
Yeah. So the gentleman on the right, are we looking at? Yeah.
Yeah. With the fern, and then it's very dark around you as well.
Oh shit! Yeah, because I've got I know it's dark. I've actually got my I've got my my lily here, and the black background. This is literally my house. Now I know what you're talking about. Jesus Christ! They just haven't got the PS5.
Yeah. But you're actually you've leveled up on them. But yeah, I haven't actually even watched that movie yet. But let's go to a few questions, man. So I suppose like people want to know as well, and there might be some comments in here as well asking it. You don't know what you're doing yet in terms of competitions. You're not doing this weekend. A feeling like, do you feel like your season could potentially be over, or do you feel like you've definitely got more comps coming?
It honestly could, Xavier. Like I can't really make a decision right now. Because I'm trying to like even the last few days I've tried to go back into my base kind of line diet from before the show. It's so ramped right now that I've had to add additional food. So I just want to play it daily. Like what I'll do is I'll just see how I am in a few days. There's still plenty of shows for the season, and I would still like to do one or two of them. And if my head says yes, then I will, but I have to get my head into that place. I'm still training. I still wake up and I still do my cardio. I basically still do everything that I have to do in order to be ready for a show.
Yeah.
But it's just getting my head there as well. And that sometimes, like for me especially, just seems to take a bit longer than other people because I am, like I say, a bit of an overthinker. And I have got a lot of other things going on. I've got, I've got some companies, I've got a company with a couple of friends of mine that's developing, smart clothing. I have some e-commerce stuff going on, and I'm trying to like do other things as well. So it's trying to find the energy and time to be able to do all things and not disrespect any of those. I don't want to let my friends down on the business and not be present because it's a great opportunity, and what we're doing is a great endeavor, and the products are amazing, and it's fast coming around. So I don't know. There's other things that I want to do as well. I definitely will be back up. I just don't know when.
Yeah. Cool, man. We'll be very intrigued to see. I suppose where you show up next. It might even be against Brett Wilkin in Romania, possibly.
It could be Rome, because that for me, like the amount of time I feel like it takes for me to kind of reset after a show, it's much more likely to be something a bit further away than something a bit closer.
Yeah. For sure. Oh, that's cool, man. I like to hear it because it's actually more exciting, I think, sometimes when people compete in shows that are like a little bit later, like after the show they just did, because you're not getting just replica lineups and like, oh, maybe now this guy can beat this guy, but I like to see it with a few more names chucked in and stuff as well. Definitely. So
there is that, and you know what as well? I think it's good to have a bit of time between shows because, like, honestly, from a standpoint of the pharmaceuticals, like people don't really talk about it, but you can scale back and you can give your body a bit of a respite. Not obviously a massive one, but you can be a lot more courteous to your body, put it that way, if you're not doing something immediately after another one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like as well, like when you do these contests and you're depleting water and in whatever way, guys do it, it's not healthy, and doing it week after week, it's going to take a toll on your body. So
Absolutely.
definitely
Rob, thank you,
smart.
sir. Thank you for your comment. And obviously, it was an honor, privilege to meet everybody at that show. Anyone that took a picture, it was truly thankful for people that even wanted one. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's cool. That's from Rob O'Meara as well, and a bunch of just really nice comments. And if anyone has any questions, there's a few comments that I've missed out on. Here we go. This one from SA. Brett versus the Shed would be awesome in Romania. That definitely would be cool to see, man. And I
think it would. I think that would be a great. That would be like a really fun. As much as bodybuilding, like that would be a fun comparison at our best, because I think Brett's one of the best people from like just as a person. I've met Brett and I've spent time with Brett in Texas. I think he's just an amazing person. And when you take someone as amazing as him and as nice as him, like I would have good time with him on stage and it would show.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I've actually started doing these side-by-side comparison videos just for a bit of fun, just to see this guy from this contest versus this guy from this contest. We'll never know unless we actually see it. But I might even do one of you and Brett. What version of James do you want me to put in there?
I like this version of James, and I think Brett would agree. He's the pre-Arnold one. The was it Chicago?
Chicago the year prior,
yeah. Like that'd be his pick for now. But he's obviously going to look even better come this show. I have no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
I think Brett's going to be fantastic this year. And I think he was fantastic at the Arnold. I think if he was just a few pounds lighter, everyone would have really seen a Brett that they would be talking about even now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cannot wait to see that battle, man, if it does obviously go down in Romania. And we've got another one from Casey Pavlina, I think. James, where do you think your Arnold Classic UK would have placed at the Arnold Classic Ohio, considering you beat Martin beat Kuklo? It's quite an interesting thought. Where do you think that would have placed?
Oh, because where did Kuklo come at the Arnold Classic Ohio then? I can't remember.
He was third, I believe, one ahead of Sampson, who was in fourth, I believe. And
then who was second?
First was you had Brandon Curry, and then Bonac was in second. I think that's right.
Yeah, them boys are untouchable. I look at Brandon and Bonac like they're that elite. Like someone said to me, like there's people with genetics better than, well, I don't know if this is true, but there's the genetics better than 99%, but then there's people with genetics better than 99.9%. And Bonac's potential and Brandon's potential is like that other level. So, Steve and I have much more similar genetic traits. So, it would have been cool to be floating around there with Steve somewhere. And I like Steve. I actually spoke to Steve the other day, had a little catch up, and it was really nice of him to reach out. So shout out to Steve, because it's not like me and him are like best friends or anything. But after the show, he reached out, and I think it was after the show. So yeah, I know it would have been hopefully around there somewhere, because obviously Martin's an extremely good bodybuilder. So is Steve, and they both were very on each other's heels or whatever. And I was around there with Martin, so logically it would have been somewhere around there with them boys.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the quality of the contests just to the end of this season has been next level. Like the quality of that top four at the UK Arnold was very, very good, man. Like a lot of those physiques, Martin, had that been in another show, probably a lot of the earlier shows would have won.
Martin's you look at Martin's, how dug out his hamstrings, glutes, and how thick his back is, and rear delts, and like the guy's got some seriously good muscle, man. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like
the 25 as well, that back lat spread. I'm like, whoa.
I said that to him. I said to him, bro, I inboxed him, and I said, the fact that you're 25, mate, it's a piss take. I said, where are you going to be in like 5 years when all of us are like just done and dusted? Like the potential, Martin. I'm going to say Martin. I've only met him on this one occasion, and I think he's a great person. And I think my thing for Martin is just don't let things bother you too much, and just keep doing you and keep training hard, because you've got everything you need. You've got a great team around you. You've got Branch Warren in your corner, who is just an absolute legend and a proper fucking bodybuilder. And just don't get too affected by anything right now, because you've got all of the potential to go anywhere you want to go, man.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is as well, like he had a great perspective leading into the show. The fact that he's living his dream, he's training with a bodybuilder that he looks up to so much, that he's training with his hero. Like, and I said to him, you look back on this, and we sort of talked a bit about it, and you look back on this, regardless of where you go in your career, and go, man, that was damn cool. Like I sort of broke out that year. I did this training with Branch Warren as well. Like Branch Warren started to get jacked again because of Martin, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, pretty motivated
cool
like hell,
see,
just having the young bucks, under his wing.
Yeah. And if he does everything right, he can do that same sort of thing again. He's had the opportunity to train Keon Pearson, Brett Wilkin. I mean, he's had it pretty good so far. So if he continues on that, I mean, how cool is his journey going to look X amount of years down the track? So
it's an amazing journey, and he has access to fortunately, some amazing people as well.
Yeah. And you know what's cool? Like it shows you back up what you were talking about before as well, with the spreading positivity and stuff like that, because I also wanted to mention something on that too, because obviously I make videos on bodybuilding news and stuff like that, and you've got to really have, because you get in this mindset of, oh, news came out, report on it, you know what I mean? And you got this moral compass that sometimes you even forget to check in with. And sometimes I've done videos and then I'm like, I don't feel great after releasing it, you know what I mean? Like you're like, that person will probably not like this. And sometimes those videos have to come out because they're going to be probably reported elsewhere in a much less favorable way. So if I'm putting it out there and going, look, but here's a circumstance, you can see it from both sides of it or whatever, then I think it lessens the brunt of it a little bit. But if I don't
one thing with you as well, you're never condescending, and you never say this is fact. Like, you're not rude. Whereas other outlets on here are rude and don't deserve the audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, there's certain things I've done some videos where I'm not proud of, but I don't think they've been particularly horrible, but it's very hard to know how you're perceived by other people as well. So I think even some people doing the content go, I'm speaking the truth, but sometimes it's like that truth can be spoken in a different way, maybe. Or maybe if it's too much, it maybe shouldn't be spoken about.
I think the thing is with you, like, you, with what you do as well, though, you're only getting more aware of how you wish to be with what you do. So you only get better over time anyway. So, all of us start a certain way, and none of us are perfect or ever will be, but we can certainly aim towards being, person that we want to be and come across how we wish to.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's from Jackie Long, says James wants times on his skates. So man, that's been obviously it's become a big topic of conversation. I've even heard people mention it without mentioning your name, saying that, I see guys skating and doing this sort of crazy stuff before contests. I mean, for me, I would probably go in my head, I'm like, okay, for me to do that, that'd probably be pretty dumb because I'm super injury prone, super injury prone. So I'm like, for me, the risk just would not be worth the reward. If I was making money from it, I'd probably think of it a bit logically like that. But if I was in a stage of my life, I'll say this, if I was in a stage of my life where I'm really struggling and stuff and it made me happy, I would not give a fuck. And I have a feeling that you maybe were around that stage and you're just like, fuck it.
Basically, close to like breaking point. And if I hadn't an outlet that's different, then I probably would have broke. So it's either one or the other. Do you want me to make it through and turn up and put on a show, or do you want me to not? And the decision I made is that I really need to do something that allows me to feel some sense of joy during a preparation for a show, because this show for me it was a fun prep. It was a great prep, but I've changed a lot as a person, and I don't always feel I'm not a super competitive person anymore. I've come to like be the person now that's like, obviously I like to win and I think that you can win and people should win, but I'm not like, I don't assess someone's value as a person on what they win and what they lose.
Yeah.
And I've always been that way about other people, but it's only recently that I've started to be that way about myself. Doesn't mean I won't go in the gym and I won't squat fucking 7 plates and try to be the best. It just means that when it comes to crunch time, if I don't lift the trophy, that I'm not going to be as hard on myself as I used to be, because I know myself that I do the best I can with what I've got. And especially in bodybuilding, it's subjective, and I can't change the opinion of people. And I shouldn't have to change the opinion of people, because everyone's entitled to their opinion. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you realize that you've just, like people have said in the comments, you just got to bodybuild for the love and try your best. And, you know, hope that on the day that you compete, the judges are preferably sway towards what you represent. But if they don't, credit to the other guy, because it is what it is. Like, we're all so different that I said this, it's not like you're running a 100-meter sprint and someone crosses the line first. If someone runs across the line and they clearly, you know, smoke you, then that's sport, that's done, that's fair enough. With bodybuilding, even if 99% of the public are like, yeah, he won, if you in yourself are like, you know, I really like what I brought, that's it. That's all you can do it for. You just say, look, I really like the package I got. I got a great picture from that weekend of me doing a whatever shot. It's going on my mantelpiece, and I bloody love it. And it was a great moment in time.
Yeah.
And that's all you can really do. And the more that I keep my brain thinking that way, the better I perform. Because the reason I performed well at this show is because I put myself in that mindset where I was very accepting of all of the things I am and all the things I'm capable of, but also understanding that my value isn't determined by my result in the final scorecards.
Yeah, and I think something as well that's maybe like a slightly different way of looking at some things, but like because I've got to speak with you, I've got to speak with Brandon Curry, I've got to speak with a lot of big names sort of in the industry. I've got to interview Jay Cutler, who is my literal hero. Now, Jay's sort of on another level, but guys at your level, Brett Wilkin, Martin, Nathan Diasha, it's like, from an outside perspective, you guys seem so famous, so big, so everything, you know, obviously you got a lot of followers and stuff on social media and all that, but it's not like being in your life. It's completely different. Yeah, I'm sure you go to the gym, get recognized when you go to bodybuilding centric events, you get recognized and you get looked at more in the street and stuff like that. But outside of that, your lives aren't really that crazy different from an amateur bodybuilder. The fact that they just might have a normal 9-to-5 job, and even some pros have 9-to-5 jobs. So is there ever any sort of, I suppose, thoughts in your head when you're like, okay, I'm at this level now, how fulfilled am I? Why aren't I more fulfilled? Do you ever get that sort of feeling? Because I almost can imagine a lot of guys would go through that.
You do, but you know, nature has it that you always want better. You always want to be better. Like with your, in comparison to yourself, you always want to present something that little bit better. And we see it with bodybuilders in the past who stay their welcome a little bit too long, and they start to regress. And I get that, because being a bodybuilder, especially to the level of where it's your job and you've done it for so many years that it's pretty much your DNA, you only know how to wake up and keep working. Like, you don't know anything else. And that's something that I always think about, because I always think about, like, if I was to like finish this, how do I finish this? How do I change? Because I don't know anything really different. Like, I'm so programmed to get up in the morning and not eat until I've gone for a half-hour walk. And then I couldn't dream of eating anything other than a bowl of, cream of rice or oats in the morning. Like, everything's just like pre-programmed, because you've kind of put these habits into place for so long that everything's so automatic. But I'm also trying to teach myself not to be the person who overstays his welcome. Like, I'm trying to prepare myself to understand and be able to see and identify when that time's approaching. And I know that it's not approaching yet, because I know I get better after shows, because the shows I have looked bad at is because of a bad prep, not because of my ability. Yeah. So I'm kind of like still hanging around, because I'm like, especially after this weekend, I'm like, when I am in my groove, I still got a lot to show. Like, I still could do really well in shows, and I still can make it to an Olympia, which is something that I was always told by the old guard, that you attend as many Olympias as you can, because you only get one career. So
yeah, absolutely. That's one thing Fred says as well. He only did one Olympia that he qualified for.
Yeah. it's weird. It's weird because like I think about everything, Xavier. Like I think about my exit plan. I think about, is this what I should be doing? I think about, yes, this is what I'm doing. Like I consider everything every day. So anything anyone ever throws at me in a comment, do you ever think about this? Do you ever think about it? The answer is going to be yes, I do.
Always.
Like I literally consider everything. And that's sometimes why it's difficult, because of the overthinking. Because when it's like that, you've got like say, you got these hooks in you, pulling you in all directions, because I'm very conscious and aware of every direction I could go from this point, that sometimes it's almost too much. And sometimes I need to just go, right now, James, you're still making progress. Maybe just keep doing what you're doing. But I've also been, told by friends of mine who are further in their careers than me and perhaps have retired and are successful, do consider afterwards, before you're done, and have things in place. So that's why I'm also the guy that thinks a lot about what to try and get set up next. I didn't even really answer the question that you put out there then, but
I can't even remember what the question was, man.
No, I can't, because I started, me, I just go off. So I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I was enjoying it, man. I was very, very deep into that conversation. So that's cool. Jamie donated another $2.99 and says, Xavier, you always report bodybuilding in a positive light. Thank you so much, Jamie. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I think he's a gamer too, man. Like that picture says gamer to me.
That picture, yeah, it does look like he's got like a profile on Steam or something.
Okay. Is that a typical Steam like avatar?
Yeah. That's what it looks like. Steam avatar for sure.
Sure. All right. What other questions have we got in here? Here we go. Mark Bates in Thailand says, it must be amazing to tread where most of us can only dream to be. You're an Olympian, stand tall and proud, James. You're the people's champion. And man, as well, based on this comment, a friend of mine, Aaron Pilates, who did the 212 Olympia back in 2019, before the whole pandemic thing happened, talking to him, man, about stepping on the Olympia stage, and he was saying, you're just standing backstage and you got that O there, and you're just like looking at it and you're just like, holy crap, I'm actually here. Like it, like, how did that feel? I suppose stepping onto the Olympia stage, man, and living out that.
I don't think I did as good as Aaron at taking it in.
Yeah.
I think I rushed my, like I was saying earlier about thinking too much about what's next instead of being present.
Yep.
I think when I was at the Olympia, I was so concerned with how I felt because I didn't feel good, that I just didn't really use the time there to focus on everything that was going around me. Like, there were so many people there that I admired that I didn't stop to speak to because of my own self doubt and insecurity was overwhelming me so much that I didn't feel like I could stop. And if I could rewind time, there was so many people that I should have just taken a moment to take in and be like more present. Yeah. I didn't really. That's one reason why I would like to make it to the O again, just because I know that I didn't take in that time as well as I could have.
And it's definitely a distinct possibility for you this year, man. Like, based on how you looked at that last show, I think that would have won I'd say most of the earlier shows from this contest year, that's for sure. So just that more you picked probably one of the toughest shows of the year to actually compete at. And there's going to be a few tough ones, but it's going to be cool to see, man, if you step back up there.
Yeah. Like I say, there's definitely a possibility that I'll go for perhaps one or two of the qualifiers, because there's still a lot of time. And, like I say, it always takes me the week after a show for me, the week directly after. That whole week always is like a write-off for me. There ain't no real, my mind's never in competing at that time. Never.
Yeah.
And it never will be, because that's the way that I'm programmed. It's normally the week after the week where I'm like, okay, I'm bored of the fluidity of lack of, like, I still have structure, but it's not quite the same. But to be that, to switch back into that kind of sixth gear, let's go forward and really push it, takes a bit of time. So like I said to you earlier, I'm just, once that hits again, then you'll know, because you'll probably see it in the energy that I put out. But right now I'm just kind of like letting the body and the mind kind of, I suppose, balance itself, and then I'll work off that.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it's about just getting a good positive mindset and getting sort of that fire back again. You know, you might have it inside already, but it's about just sort of resetting your body, not just pushing your body into the ground over and over again. And I think that you've gone the right way about it, man, to bring your best. And I think, you know, in a way, you know in yourself how to bring your best as well. And it is taking that time for your body, you know, not just going week after week, contest after contest.
Yeah.
So we've got another question here. We've got a bunch, actually. We'll just quickly answer these ones, James. We'll wrap this thing up for you. Because I know it's getting late over there. It must be like 10:30 or a little bit after. This is from Callum Hanlon, says, will James be working with Jordan Peters from now on? And are you happier with the look from working with him?
Yeah, I think so. Like the way things were with Jordan this year is that if you ask Jordan, he was pretty much an eye for me. And a lot of the preparation decisions were actually my own. I just needed someone to see what was happening from the decisions I made. So Jordan was there for me, and so was Corin. To, you know, I would make a decision, and then I would go down to Jordan's once a week for a few days. They would have a look and assess how I was doing, and then we'd have a conversation. And from that conversation would determine where I went from there. So I think the level of input that we had was very much shared. Even Yannick was very heavily involved with feedback. So it was very much a team effort. And I don't think there could be a better team for me personally, because logistically they're here in the flesh, so I can go and see them and actually present what I have and be seen in person. But secondly, also, it was a great opportunity for me to spend time with a friend. So I kind of, it's the best of both worlds for me. I get to spend time with someone who I have a lot of rapport with and a lot of consideration and a massive friendship with. But at the same time, I can also get into pretty damn good shape by going there and letting him have a look at how I look. So I think, yeah, from what I do, it will always be now that way, because it's kind of full circle. Because if any of you don't know, I actually turned pro with Jordan. When I won the UKBFF, the overall, it was actually Jordan that prepared me for that show. So it's kind of gone full circle, really.
Yeah, that's cool as. We've got another super chat. This is from Based Bodybuilding TV, $4.99. Thank you so much. It says, James, although you like training heavy, have you considered doing lower weight, high rep training like Nick is doing with Kamal?
It's relative, isn't it? Weight's relative. You'll probably notice that when I train, I do a couple of sets per an exercise. One's normally like what you'd probably consider heavy, and then if you see the second set, it's probably what you'd consider not heavy. So I tried to cover both grounds, and something I've always been a believer in is being strong in a multitude of rep ranges. You know, so whether it be your 8 to 10s or your 15 to 20s, you should be able to lift a good amount of load in both rep ranges, and that's how I train. I'm not like a super low rep guy, unless maybe for one exercise per workout you'll see that. But I don't know. I do a lot of stuff on YouTube with training, so it depends if you've seen some of my training. Maybe worth having just a little look and seeing how it's changed over the years, because it hasn't always been the same. I would say now I actually have slightly more reps per set than I would have maybe 2-3 years ago. And I do agree with you. I think by doing slightly more reps gives you a little bit more control over the load you're lifting, and that does reflect in how your physique looks, because I feel like control is what ultimately lets you connect with the muscle and create the best response in terms of like hypertrophy with load, of course. So control and load, put those two in the same sentence, and I think you really can get the best out of your training.
For sure. I love this comment. Extra medium hoodie. This guy is a pro bodybuilder. He looks tiny in his white hoodie, super narrow.
I know. That's the funny thing with me. Look, I'm wearing this
No, but is there black on the sleeves though? There's black, isn't there? Yeah, so people can't see that. They think that it cuts off like where you don't have arms.
Hoodie. It actually ends like over here somewhere.
But actually,
you know what? But it's funny, because even with that comment, though, I am one of them bodybuilders, though, also, that when I'm wearing certain clothes, I don't look like I occupy much space.
Why is that? Some guys don't look like Lee Priest in a t-shirt. If you don't see his forearms, he does not look that big. Like, really doesn't. But then he takes his shirt off and poses, and you go, holy crap.
I think it's clavicle width. It's normally just like how wide is your shoulder set. Like, you look at Nick Walker, he looks big all the time. Like, obviously his arms are unavoidable, but he has incredible shoulder width. take guys that have incredible shoulder width. It's hard to not see their size.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think I'm one of them bodybuilders. I'm much more like a side-on guy, like thickness rather than width.
For sure, yeah. Your
You
side,
know, one of
like
my
your side
weaknesses,
chest is super impressive.
one of my genetic kind of, I suppose, dispositions as a bodybuilder is I'm not a wide bodybuilder, but what I lack in width, I try to, you know, make up for in a bit of that front to back kind of thickness.
Yeah, for sure. Next, I don't know what this means. Says John Doe, please ask James what he meant by sixth gear, and it said he'll understand.
Not the normal sixth. He's talking about sixth gear with the misses, but this wasn't that sixth gear. Yeah. This wasn't that sixth gear. This is a different sixth gear, but that sixth gear will happen. I'm overdue.
Just built up.
I won't let you down, John. I promise. I won't let you down. Yannicka.
Yeah, he says video or it doesn't happen. No, he didn't say that. That's funny. Says Jamie learn. I don't know what Paul is involved. I don't know what he's talking about there. That guy. Here we go. This is from Omar Ismail. He says, do you feel having something outside of bodybuilding like gaming, rollerblading has helped you enjoy prep and bodybuilding more?
100%. Like I said earlier, I feel like maybe just because I've been doing it so long, that I feel like that's almost a requirement now for me in order to get through a prep, that I need some other stimulus as well. And I think it's good because I think I don't like to just challenge myself in one thing. Like it's nice to feel like a new big end at something, like at the bottom of the ladder. You know, obviously there's still a massive way for me to go in bodybuilding, but there's many other things out there that I'm a lot worse at. So sometimes doing something that you're worse at is actually quite encouraging because it's just nice to do something that you see. When you're worse at something, when you do get better at, you see it happen faster because obviously you're at the bottom. So I think that's an encouraging thing in itself. So I think it's worth having
progress, and it's you know, you release all these positive, good chemicals and stuff in your brain.
Progress in whatever you do is progress, and it feels good.
Yeah, I'm someone who gets very frustrated if I'm not good at something. So like when I was doing my boxing thing, I would be very hard on myself, but it was still cool. Like because then I'm like, I take a few videos, I'm like, that looks all right, you know, that looks fast, like in my head anyway.
Which is difficult to kind of get from bodybuilding because let's say you do 1 or 2 shows a year, it takes a whole year to truly see whether you've progressed or not, because that's really the only time you see when progression has occurred, because it's the only time that matters. So having these little kind of endeavors in between that you can kind of measure, I suppose, give you a sense of fulfillment that you can't get always from the bodybuilding.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one from Casey as well, who donated the most that anyone's ever actually donated or super chatted or whatever you want to call it. Wow, there's a lot more questions down there. Oh, there's another one as well. It says, boys, hummus or guacamole?
I like guacamole more.
I'd say I do too, but I've had stages where I've gone hard on hummus. So not really hard on hummus, but
I like the hummus, but I don't know. Guacamole just seems to be the one for me out of the two. Sorry.
And it's great on Mexican stuff as well. Like depends what you're having with, I guess.
Well, even earlier, like I didn't have guacamole, but I had like an avocado paste mix with with dried tomato and like lime juice. So it's not quite the same. But I had that on some prawns, and that was pretty damn good.
Prawns, yeah. But prawns are such a random meat that not many bodybuilders would really eat, like a protein source.
Quite popular here. It's quite popular. A lot, like I know that like friends of mine, like Cuba, you know, even Jordan, like all of them are quite keen on like seafood.
Well, I actually had a client once. They said, "Can I eat prawns?" And I was like, "Yes, you can." I've never had anyone ask that.
Like the macronutrients are great.
Yeah, so why not? Unless you're getting the garlic prawns. Like I had one client off season start just smashing garlic prawns. I was like, "Why is this dude putting on so much weight?" But based bodybuilding TV, another donation says, "Have you considered Leroy Davis train you?" #nasty.
I meant to listen. I was meant to train because I'm friends with Ant Bales, obviously.
Is Leroy the guy who was Dorian Yates' training partner?
Yeah, he trained with Dorian. If you watch Blood and Guts, the guy training with Dorian is Leroy Davis. And Leroy and Ant Bales are often seen in the same vicinity training because they're kind of like the new duo, even though they're old school as hell. But I'm very overdue a session with Amph because Amph is on me to train, and I need to go train because he's incredible to train with. But I'm also scared because he kicks the shit out of me. Like the guy is a retired 212 pro, yeah. he'll get on a Cybex hack squat with like 6 plates aside and just rep it until the sun goes down. And I'm like, I know that if I train with him, he expects me to do what he does and more. And I don't know if I'm just ready for that pressure yet. And Leroy, if Leroy's there, Leroy's just basically going to do what he does in Blood and Guts and get in your ear and make you do more reps. So I basically just need to man up and go and get it done. But when we do, if I do get it done, it'd be definitely worth something filming for YouTube for sure.
Oh yeah, Leroy Davis. That would be absolutely epic. Like I would love to.
You reminded me now. Actually, I'm gonna drop Ant for message tomorrow, and I'm gonna drop Ant for message tomorrow. See if we can arrange something. See if Leroy can smash the shit out of me. That's Leroy.
That's Leroy there.
He's just got it. Like you look at his face, you know he means business, didn't you?
Yeah, I would love to have that voice out of Blood and Guts just yelling at me, man. That'd be cool. Do you know what I used to imagine? I used to imagine Ronnie Coleman was behind me or something, being like, and you're squatting, and you just have that in your head because you're just like, if he was there, you'd be going a few more reps.
For me, it's always Branch because the way that Branch used to get like pissed off with the camera and stuff, just the anger he used to have, I just thought it was tremendous. I remember like he was filming one of the, it might have been like Insanity, the Train Insane or whatever it was, and the camera's like looking at him, he's like, get the fucking camera out of my face. Like, he didn't give a shit.
Was that Generation 9?
No, this was actually in one of his training videos. I think it was Train Insane. I've got the DVD somewhere. Like it's a double disc, I think. And
it's in Metroflex where he slapped the camera. He's like, "Get it out of my face."
He probably done that in. To be fair, I bet he's done that 100 times because that's just the way he is.
For sure. I would hate to be in a gym, man, and have him yell at me. I feel like I'd go home and just think about it nonstop. My Branch hates me.
Oh, same. So Leroy did look like Thor. Leroy looked like he would fit right in a Viking esque movie there.
Next question. Yeah, absolutely. This is from the Fat Mamba. Says salmon is the S tier protein. Do you agree, James and Xavier? What does that mean? S tier.
S tier, top tier. Like so, there's A and an S is better than A.
Oh man, I love salmon.
Like S rank. Like if you ever play a game, Devil May Cry, if you get an S rank, you've smashed it.
So it's a gaming term.
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah. I would say salmon is. I have salmon once a day normally. Normally is my 4th meal. I love salmon. Salmon's like one of my favorite dishes. Love it.
Yeah, no, it's the best. When you're dieting though, you always want a lot more than you have. Yeah, man, I don't know if you can hear my stomach is going crazy now. Did you hear that?
Was that you that's growling?
Yeah, that was me growling. That was my stomach.
It's early in the morning for you. You're due breakfast, aren't you?
Man, I'm due a lot of meals. I've been up most of the night, so I'm definitely due breakfast. It's 7:46 a.m. here. What time is it? Your
10:46.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. So we've got a lot of comments coming through. I think people like that. My stomach grumbly or something there. Here we go. One more question. We'll wrap it up after this one. This is from JR. Unless you've got a super chat, obviously we'll stick around a little longer. JR, considered acting or anything similar to the Kratos God of War costume, could make some money doing something else you love.
I have considered it. I've actually I used to be part of an agency only for a brief time where I've gone for auditions before and got through the process relatively far, but missed out on the final opportunity. And one person, I don't think anyone will know him, but his name was Oliver Price. He was Duke Nukem when the game came out. So he was a super heavyweight bodybuilder from England. And I was unfortunate enough to go for a couple of adverts that he went for. And he's obviously very good at what he does. And it's his actual job. So I lost out on 1 or 2 opportunities because of him.
Oh, it sucks, man. I was actually talking to Jamie Christian the other day about getting into that sort of stuff. And he's got I think an audition or something for Gladiator UK. So man, you should get into some of that sort of stuff. It'd be cool to see.
I would love to act. Listen, like I go in the circles with the boys with like all obviously the guys like Evan and that, they're in the I don't know if anyone knows about the Centre circles, but I go in there and sometimes I do some like voices and that, and I just piss around acting. I actually did a voiceover for Flex that got into an advert he done.
I featured that, man. Do one of those voices. Just I don't know, like what you can say. Be like, today on Desktop Bodybuilding, James Hollingshead. Do something like that, man.
Today on Desktop Bodybuilding, like you can just do anything, or you don't even have to be British because you could be like, we talk about Peaky fucking blinders all the fucking time over here. You know what I mean? I'll fucking catch you. Like there's all these different. You know what I mean? Like you get really carried away, and I don't know. There's plenty of like, I'd love to do a film, but the thing I fear about a film is I know that I would not be able to remember lines. It'd have to be one of them where they let me like ad lib. You know, like how these famous actors basically just make shit up. Like, sometimes they give like an actor a role, like Johnny Depp or someone who's so good at what they do. They've been doing it for years. They basically know what they're meant to say, but they don't say it. They say what they want to say, and it still makes it to the film because they're that good.
It probably comes off more natural too, you know, like if you've got to remember a line, like obviously they've got cues to make sure, like I tell people when I teach posing, I say like, okay, I'm like, obviously you're thinking the whole time, like if you're pretty new to it, but you've got to look like you're not thinking. You know, like if you look off to the left, it's like, go like that. You look like you're thinking. But if you
always got to be, Xavier, it's got to be that they're, I think if you genuinely do practice being the person you're playing, then you probably fall into a place where you respond as that person naturally, so that you act as that person naturally, and you don't actually have to have such a script almost. Like obviously there's guidelines, but let's say you're in a film and the character you play, their wife has cheated on them. Like you can be very diverse with how you speak about that issue happening. Like how many ways can a man react to some bad news like that? You know, so as long as you're acting as the character, and they say in this scene you're going to be very angry and almost, you know, hands on. Like you go full bore. Like if a film said to do that to me, like, okay, you're going to be in this film and this is the guideline. Like on this scene, this is what I want you to do. Don't worry too much about the script itself. You say what you think, and then we'll toggle it, play with it there. Then I would definitely do a film. But if there was a film that was like literally, I need this word for word, I'd be screwed. I wouldn't be able to remember. I can't even remember a shopping list, let alone a fucking script.
Man, I totally agree. I think we've got a lot of similarities in some things, but yeah, remembering stuff like that, I'm like I get asked to get something, like you said, going to a supermarket or something, and then all of a sudden it's just like, I'll be there. I'm like, I've got to get this and this and this, and then I forget that last thing that was told to me. I'm just terrible at it. Like,
yeah, no, I'm like that. I have a brain like a sieve for the things that are important, but the things that are not important, I have nothing.
Another one from Casey before we wrap it up. Thank you so much, man. James, would you trade shoulder width for calves? Man, you got big calves.
My calves aren't even that good, so I don't know. Can't even see from there. They're still tan. If I could like maybe shave off a bit, but I like having calves, honestly, because there's a lot of pro bodybuilders that don't. So at least I can say I've got those, because for me, I feel like when I look at like a physique like my own, I know there's things that are lacking, but I also know that there is development on everything. So I can take pride in knowing that even if you put me in a pair of shorts, still a pair of calves there, which a lot of bodybuilders in this game, she can't say the same.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. Calves is one of those things that's obviously, you know, in part genetic, but I think some people just choose not to train them because I don't think they're that important as well. But man, I'll let you go.
Like, they don't really get judged, do they?
Nah. Do you want to give shout outs to your sponsors and stuff, man, before we wrap this thing up? And do you have any final messages?
Let me shout out just a few people. Like, shout out you first and foremost. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Obviously, shout out to Yannicka, my good lady. Most supportive person I've ever come across in my life. Shout out to Jordan and Corinne for just being legendary and helping me bring what I feel was the best version of me, and helping me in a process where I'm still, you know, very much trying to find my confidence again and find my groove again. And they've very much been a fundamental part of that. Thank you to Patrick for everything he's done for me, being my coach at the time, and, you know, getting me to the Olympia and show wins, and just being a good person all in all. Because, you know, the thing with like Patrick as well is it's not just that he was coaching me, like we generally had conversations that were really, really important and very, very personal. And I think I'll never forget those. And although things haven't worked out favorably for us in a coach-client aspect, I think no less of the man, and I never will think any less of the man. So he deserves a lot of thanks. Yamamoto obviously provided me with just some ridiculously good supplements. I had a box come through today, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like the variety in the stuff that we have, like I'm blown away. I had to go back onto my computer and look at my my shopping cart of my recent order to double check what everything is, because there's so many things. I needed to look at the descriptions, because obviously a lot of it's Italian. So I'm like, yeah, okay, that's for that, that's for that, that's for that. So thank you to them. Tough Raps, thank you to Tough Raps. They are at the Arnold, and I had a great time with them on the booth on the first day on the Saturday, and managed to catch up with them. They've always been great to me. King's Gym for just giving me, the atmosphere, and that's something I didn't touch. I'm not going to go into this too much because I know I'm going off, but I didn't actually train at my own gym for like more than half this prep because of anxiety.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I found it very
social anxiety, like a social, like being around other people.
Social, but also like because I also felt that I didn't want to let anyone down there. That I was worried that if I train around people, they will judge me for how I'm training and judge me for how I'm looking. I was almost worried that my own people would think that I'm not trying hard enough. So I needed to take myself away and just take out the noise. So I'm back there though. I got back there about 3 weeks out. And it was like being home again. So that's fantastic. So just thank you to them and whatnot. And yeah, just like basically when I post the post, anyone that's below my links that I tag, that's basically everybody that helps me out, and it is appreciated. So, and the most important people are the people that support, people that have tuned in today to the chat, to put comments in, to do the super chats, support the channel, and basically just people that are fans of bodybuilding. Even if you're not a fan of me and you're a fan of someone that's in bodybuilding, you're still giving to bodybuilding. And ultimately, as a culture, for us to thrive and survive, it takes having an audience, and the audience are the most important people. So thank you. And if you're inspiring, an aspiring bodybuilder yourself, the last bit of things I want to say is just try to take away some of what I said today. I know that I ramble on, but there will be times where other people won't necessarily be nice about you and your endeavors, but fuck them. Like, just do your thing, be you, and be unapologetically you, and just trust yourself. And you can do better than I did, because I've let things sometimes get in my head. And just have good people around you, man. Watch the content like this that you enjoy. Put into your bubble the things that make you feel good and the things that encourage you, and avoid all the bullshit and just let them go fuck themselves.
I love it, man.
Really.
That's awesome. And we will wrap this one up in just a moment. But yeah, getting a lot of positive comments coming through. Yeah, heaps of them coming through right now. Is Xavier the Tassie Heisenberg? I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Heisenberg's the character from Resident Evil Village. I think he's talking about Heisenberg. Heisenberg's a cool character.
Oh, cool.
Very
I like
cool
it,
character.
man. I'll be the Tassie Heisenberg, man. But yeah, some really cool comments. I think people are recognizing that I look pretty damn tired right now. We've got this one, Nadeem.
On the meth.
And also, there's another one from Casey. Xavier, make sure you sleep after this. Haha.
He needs to, doesn't he? I agree. I think he needs to.
I think I definitely need to, yeah. But man, thank you so much for coming on Desktop Bodybuilding once again. I think this has been a super, super like informative chat for people that are going through stuff. I feel like it would be especially helpful, but also just to get into your mind and for people to know more about, I suppose, what you've been through, what you're going through, and I suppose just, the journey you're on at the moment. I feel like you give a really deep insight to that, and I think it's very valuable to other people. It's entertaining in its own way, and I think that, yeah, it's just cool to know guys like you, guys that are achieving big things in bodybuilding. It's good to know your backstory and all that sort of stuff, and it helps people sympathize with you as well, because I'm sure people that watch this that want to report on something about you going forward, or do want to talk crap about you online, they might second think that, but obviously as the audience grows, as you become more popular, it can become a little bit more, you get more of a negative, you get more of a positive, but you get more of a negative too. But man, I love the way you're handling it. And yeah, do you have any final messages for anyone before we wrap it up?
Just thank you for letting me have somewhere to talk as well, because the talking is as beneficial for me. Like, being able to speak about my feelings openly helps me heal as well. Like, so me coming on here has done just as much for me personally on a personal level. So thank you.
Yeah, oh man, absolutely my pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on, man. Very last minute and doing your thing, but we'll wrap this thing up. If you guys want to see James Hollingshead on here anytime again soon, leave it in the comments below and let us know if you enjoy this interview, what you got out of it. and what maybe I can do better next time. I'm getting a lot of things in the comments saying that I say a few things like that too much. So I think it's just a habit thing, and it's probably an anxiety thing, to be honest. Like, you don't want to leave that dead air, so you go yeah, and that, and all those sorts of little cues that you do just to avoid the anxiety sort of stuff.
So I just look at the comments and I see all the references to games. I'm seeing like Alex saying like Resident Evil 4, people talking about God of War and stuff. So I just love it. This is a great group of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of gamers in here, man. So cool. And Casey giving us credit for that one as well. And thank you, Casey, for all the questions, all that sort of stuff. And thank all you guys for, even if you're just watching, not asking questions, we appreciate it so much. And you can almost feel the love on this podcast. It's pretty cool. So I think it's one of a kind, and I hope people enjoy it, and we'll share it out there and try to get it out to everyone. But thank you so much, James, for coming on Desktop Bodybuilding once again. So for myself, Xavier Wills, and James Hollingshead, this has been One-on-One with James Hollingshead live, and we are out.
Thank you.